Everyone, and welcome to today's Daily Booster for Biology, which is number 17 in our Paper 1 series. Do note that this is an advanced information listed topic, and this is for both foundation and higher students, so everyone needs to know this stuff today. What we're going to be doing in today's booster is having a look at the menstrual cycle. So hopefully we know the basics here, that the menstrual cycle is a monthly cycle that gets the body ready for pregnancy, and it lasts around 28 days. Now, this is the kind of typical picture of the female reproductive system with the bits we need to know on there. So hopefully we know that the fallopian tube, which is the tube that runs down from the ovary to the uterus, is where the egg is fertilized. Hopefully we know that the ovary, which you've got one on each side there, is where the eggs mature. The uterus is where the fetus will develop. The vagina is where the sperm will actually be deposited. And finally, the cervix is the little area where we gain the entrance to the uterus. So let's have a look at the overview then. What's going to happen then is each month the lining of the uterus will thicken. The whole idea being it's getting ready in case an egg is fertilized, because that fertilized egg would then implant in the lining and that's where it would develop. What we also find at the same time that the lining of the uterus is actually thickening, then an egg is going to start to mature in the ovary. 14 days after the start of that process, the egg is going to be released in the process of ovulation, and it travels down the fallopian tube where, if sperm is present, it will be fertilized. That fertilized egg would then implant into the uterus lining where it would then develop and grow. Obviously, not every egg is going to be fertilized, and therefore if the egg is not fertilized, then it gets removed along with the uterus lining in the form of the period or menstruation. Now, in terms of the control of this whole thing, then we have 4 hormones that are involved. Some are made in the pituitary gland, others are made in the ovaries. So the 4 hormones we need to remember then: FSH, or follicle stimulating hormone, estrogen, luteinizing hormone or LH, and progesterone. As far as your exams go, you don't have to know the full names. You can literally go with FSH and LH for those. Obviously there is no shorthand of writing estrogen or progesterone for your GCSE papers. What we now need to do is have a little look at these hormones in a touch more detail in turn. So if we start off with follicle stimulating hormone, FSH. This one is secreted by the pituitary gland, and it's obviously going to travel through the bloodstream, as all hormones do, and it's going to travel to the ovaries, which are the target. What it does is it's going to cause an egg to mature. That's not all it does though. It also stimulates the ovaries to produce the second hormone in our cycle of estrogen. So FSH causes an egg to mature and stimulates the ovaries to produce estrogen, but it's made in the pituitary gland itself. Hormone number 2, estrogen. This is made and secreted by the ovaries, and it causes the uterus lining to thicken. So it's getting it ready for that egg to be deposited should it be fertilized. Now, when estrogen levels increase, they inhibit the production of the FSH, which means that you should only have a single egg maturing at any given time. And it's also going to stimulate the pituitary gland to release LH. So it inhibits FSH and stimulates the pituitary to release LH. Third hormone is luteinizing hormone, or LH. This is secreted by the pituitary gland. And what we find here is that when LH levels peak in the middle of the cycle, that's around day 14, then ovulation will occur. Finally, our 4th and final hormone, progesterone. This is the one that maintains the lining of the uterus, keeping it nice and thick, ready for that fertilized egg should one exist. And these progesterone levels will remain high throughout pregnancy because we need them high in order to maintain the uterus lining. What progesterone also does is it inhibits LH, so again you should only see a single egg being released from an ovary. One thing that they can ask you about on the exam papers is to interpret or describe or explain these kind of graphs to do with the menstrual cycle. As much as they look a little bit scary, don't let it throw you. Just break it down one little bit at a time, and then you can talk about them. Because in reality, what we have are 4 separate little axes for the graphs. So at the very bottom, we can see the number of days, and that applies to all of the graphs above. So what we can see, the key dates you need to remember is obviously 14 days. That is the point of ovulation. So remember what we said, ovulation is day 14. So if you know that, you can look up here and go, well, okay, which hormone is actually peaking around day 14? And the answer is our blue line, which is LH. So hopefully from that we could say, well, LH peaks because on day 14, that triggers ovulation. So you can tie together the knowledge that you've got from learning to actually describing and interpreting these graphs. As I say, don't let it throw you, just take it one little step at a time. Final thing for today then is to head on over to have a go at our quiz to see how well you've understood the topics from today and how much you have retained. Obviously, if there are bits you get wrong on the quiz, do come back, revisit the video, or even better, go and have a look at the more in-depth look we've done on the main channel video. You can, of course, support your learning with any of your books you've got at home, revision guides, your actual exercise books, etc. And of course, don't forget to join us once more tomorrow for our next daily booster for biology.